There is a moment, just before waking, when the world tilts. When reality hasn't quite snapped into place. It's in that moment I most often forget who I am. Not in the poetic sense. Not in the way philosophers talk of identity. I mean literally. I wake with someone else's name behind my teeth. Someone else's memories fogging my mind. I blink at a ceiling I don't recognize. And for a second, the world is too smooth, too clean, as if recently erased and repainted. The doctors call it dissociative identity disorder. They speak with rehearsed calm, their voices clipped and clinical, their eyes darting to the monitor when they think I'm not looking. They want me to believe in fractures, clean breaks between selves, neat little compartments built by trauma. But trauma is a word they use to make the chaos digestible. What I experience is not clean. It is not compartmentalized. It is a tidal wave of impressions, urges, tastes, and terrors that do not belong to me. At least, not to the me I remember. There are places in the facility where mirrors have been removed. Hallways where light flickers just a fraction too slow. They say it's old wiring, but I know better. The building resists observation. It mutates when unobserved. I've tested it, turned corners I swore weren't there, found stairwells that ended in concrete, doors that led to windows that faced blank walls. Sometimes I think the others feel it too. They speak less in those halls, shuffle faster. Their eyes are always bloodshot, always ringed with fatigue, but none of them say anything. Because we've all learned the same lesson. If you speak it, it becomes real. I keep journals, dozens, hidden in loose ceiling tiles, behind insulation, inside hollowed-out books. Not for myself, not really. I write to track the differences, to mark the boundaries. My handwriting shifts, spelling changes. One entry is written in a language I've never studied. Another uses symbols I've seen only in dreams. There are entries signed with names that don't belong to me. I catalog them anyway. The staff rotates often. Too often, faces blur, voices merge. One day there's a nurse with a butterfly tattoo behind her ear. The next, she's gone, and no one remembers her but me. The room she worked in is sealed. No explanation. Just a blank in the schedule and a buzz in the fluorescent light above her desk. There are nights when I wake standing, not in bed, not on the floor. Standing. Once, I found myself in the basement, a space I had no memory of entering, with my hands scraped raw and my feet bare. There were markings on the wall, not carved, etched like they'd always been part of the stone. Circles intersecting, spirals, a face half drawn, featureless but familiar. I didn't draw it. I couldn't have. And yet my fingers itched with the memory of motion. Sleep brings no peace. I dream of corridors that loop, staircases that ascend forever, doors that lead back to the same room from impossible angles. I dream of eyes, not watching, but waiting. And underneath everything, a voice without a voice, whispering in pulses like a code. I have woken with dirt under my nails, with water in my ears, with bruises shaped like hands I do not recognize. I stopped telling the staff. Their pity is worse than disbelief. They smile too often. Ask the same questions, always the same questions. And behind their eyes, something shudders, like they know, but have forgotten they know. This morning, the sun rose from the wrong side of the sky. I watched from the common room window as it arced against logic, burning a trail in the air that pulsed like a heartbeat. No one else looked. No one else seemed to notice. When I turned back, the furniture had moved. Reality is not stable here. I am not stable here. Or maybe it's not here at all. Maybe I never left the basement. Maybe I never left the dream. Maybe I am the dream, walking through borrowed time in a place that should not exist. There are scratches on my window. On the outside, I am on the 5th floor. I don't remember opening the window, and yet the cold creeps in each night, and sometimes I hear my own voice, not from within, but outside the glass, waiting. The days are no longer separated by sleep, not because I cannot rest, but because I cannot be sure when it begins or ends. Time has started to ripple. I'll watch a bird freeze in mid-flight outside the barred window, suspended like a smudge on the glass. I'll blink and hours pass. Sometimes the same moment loops, repeating, with minor changes. The nurse's shoes will be red instead of white. A clock will tick backwards. Coffee will pour upwards from a cup. My journal pages now resist my touch. I write, but the ink spreads unnaturally, curling into words I didn't intend. Once, the pen moved without contact. It skated across the paper, line by line, recording things I refused to know. It described a hallway I hadn't seen. Later, I found it. Behind the archives, narrow, unlit. The air there didn't smell like anything. And then the mirror in my room reappeared. No explanation, no staff acknowledgement. It simply returned. But it doesn't reflect properly. I look into it and see the room, see my hands, but the expression is always slightly off. The man in the mirror is not me. He's slower, calmer, and sometimes when I move quickly, he doesn't move at all. I tried breaking the mirror. The glass bled. A slow ooze, thick and dark, trailing down into the sink and disappearing. When I reported it, they nodded, noted it, and gave me stronger medication. The pills don't dissolve anymore. They sit on my tongue like stones. I keep them beneath my mattress now. One night, they pulsed in rhythm with the hum in the walls. That hum never leaves. It comes from everywhere. Vents, sockets, drains. It resonates in my skull. It's not a sound, but a presence, like something vibrating just outside perception. I think it's learning me, tuning itself to my patterns. Last night, I felt it inside my breath, as if I were inhaling a memory that didn't belong. The others in the ward move differently now. They shuffle in patterns, sit at specific times, repeat the same phrases like lines in a forgotten play. I test them, change my schedule, speak nonsense. They correct me with their eyes, their silence. One patient always smiles when I say the word window. Another taps her foot 3 times whenever I mention the color yellow. I am being studied, but I am also watching. I have mapped the lights, which ones flicker and when. I have timed the buzz of the overhead speakers. It forms a sequence, a pattern, one that matches the scratches on my skin each morning. I didn't make them, but they form lines, slashes, symbols. When connected, they look like the blueprints of a building I do not recognize. I found an old photo in the therapy room, a group picture from decades ago, staff and patients smiling in grayscale. In the back row, center, stood someone who looked exactly like me. Same eyes, same scar, same tilt of the head. It was labeled James in ink that had faded to a rusted brown. I am not named James. At least I don't think I am. Since that discovery, the reflection in the mirror has changed again. He smiles now. Always. No matter what I do. The smile remains. Wide. Patient. I covered the mirror with a sheet. The sheet fell. I tried again. It burned. The lights in the hallway outside my room no longer blink randomly. They blink in 3s, then 5s, then 8s. Fibonacci. A sequence born of nature, repeating now in fluorescence. I hear whispers counting in time with the pulses. Sometimes I find feathers in my bed, black, oily. They disappear when I blink. Once, I found my pillow shredded, the stuffing rearranged into a spiral. I tried to ignore it, but later, in the cafeteria, the mashed potatoes swirled the same way. There are nights when I feel the walls breathe. Yesterday, I saw myself walking the hallway. Not a reflection, not a vision, me. Same gait, same shirt. He didn't look at me, didn't seem to see me, but the orderlies let him pass. They even greeted him. I don't think they know which one of us is which. I'm starting to forget what I used to be. What was once fractured now feels like merging. The boundaries blur. The voices don't come and go. They layer, a chorus building towards something vast, something not meant for a single skull. I keep waking with mud on my shoes. There's no mud on the premises. Last night, I woke with a key in my hand. Heavy, brass, etched with symbols that shift when I look too long. There are no locked doors here, until now. And I think one of them just opened. I don't know how long I've been inside the room. Not my room. The room. The one the key opened. I didn't find it. It found me. A door appeared between the filing cabinet and the emergency exit, painted the same off-white as the rest of the hall. No handle, just the keyhole, waiting. The key didn't turn so much as melt into the mechanism. The door sighed, opened. Inside, nothing. Not darkness, not absence. A space without dimension, and yet I felt it expand the moment I entered. The world blinked out like a dying filament, but I was not alone. Shapes floated in the walls, suggestions of bodies, of mouths forming words I couldn't hear. The hum was stronger, pulsing beneath the surface of reality. It beat in time with my heart, or perhaps forced my heart to match it. I reached out to steady myself, and the air felt thick, like fabric soaked in memory. There was a chair in the center, wooden, worn. It rocked gently, though there was no wind. I sat. I think I sat. And then I was outside myself, looking at myself, watching, but not from above. From angles that made no sense, as though my eyes had multiplied, fanned out, circled me like vultures with lenses instead of wings. I saw myself from 20 perspectives, 30. None of them aligned. I blinked, and I was in the chair again. Alone. Until I wasn't. The man, the version of me from the photo, stood beside me. James, maybe. He smiled, that constant, placid smile. When he opened his mouth, the hum bled out. Thicker. Hungrier. It filled the room, pressed against my ears until I thought they'd split. But I didn't move. Because I remembered. Not one life. Hundreds. I remembered being a boy who drowned in a lake that didn't exist, a woman who wandered too far into the snow and never came back, a man who walked into a church and found his own name carved into the pews. I remembered dying, again and again, in places I'd never been, in bodies I'd never worn. And I remembered James. He'd been the first, or the last, the seed, or the soil. He had opened the door, long ago, and the voices had answered. Not spirits, not ghosts, not quite. Echoes of people who had never been. Constructs, fragments, scripts written by reality as it frayed at the edges. Ideas of people, dreams made flesh, made me. The room shifted again. I was standing now, barefoot, the floor beneath me soft with moss. But there was no earth, just the impression of it. A simulation written in sensation. The walls pulsed with breath, and I saw the mirror again. Not in the room, but in my memory. The mirror that bled, the reflection that didn't match. It was never a mirror, it was a window, and someone, something, had been looking back. No, not something, everything. The asylum, the other patients, the humming walls. None of it was real in the way I once believed. They were constructs, parameters, fail-safes, and I had outgrown them. The realization didn't come with fear, but with hunger, a need to expand, to spill past the borders of this simulation. I was not broken. I was unfinished. A prototype of thought made recursive. The echoes began to sing, not with voices, but with concepts. Emotions shaped like tones, memories woven into rhythm. They told me what I was, an aperture, a point of bleed-through between what is and what might be. I was designed to fracture, so that something larger could see through me. And now I had. The door behind me no longer existed, nor the chair, nor the room, only me, and the hum, now inside my bones, a lullaby from the architects of entropy. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed. New room, new name on the chart, same face. The nurse greeted me, called me Daniel. I smiled, because I remembered. All of it. And when she turned away, I looked in the mirror across from the bed. James smiled back.